Hello ladies and gentlemen, Willie here. It's nearly that time. The reason I bet a lot of you guys started Classic again, or perhaps have been playing through it so far, the final raid tier of Classic, one that arguably has the most legendary status of any raid, well, ever. Naxx, or Naxx 40 I should say. There was the Wrath of the Lich King version, but we don't talk about that version. I know one of the big motivations for me to play in Classic was certainly the raiding scene. Having never done it back in the day, it's something this time around I really wanted to see, or at least in its atmosphere, I suppose, because I'm sure we're already very much aware it's gonna be quite a bit easier than it was made out to be before Classic launched. Because back in the day, or even before Classic, Naxx was meant to be hard, and I mean hard for a raid. You know that excuse that we're playing on the end of vanilla talents and itemization? Well, we're practically at the same power level that players would have had the opportunity to be back in 2006 now. There are a few more differences in 1.12, but nothing overly significant, so that argument's gone. Also, don't worry, I'll be looking at the number of clears after 2 or so weeks in Naxx, just like I have with the other raids so far. But back in 2006, how many guilds got a clear before TBC came out? It's honestly hard to say. The information about it is just sort of all over the place, and quite a bit of it is through word of mouth or just statements with nothing really to back them up. And I do spend quite a bit of time fact-checking and researching, cross-referencing, and well, there's a post here claiming on US servers that at least out of a pool of 900,000 players, that about 1% managed at least one boss, whereas 23 went on to complete a full clear. Not really sure where this is gained from though. Also, 900k feels a bit low for the entire US player base, as we'll see in a moment. There is a very good Reddit post still being updated to this day that is archived and that needs some form of proof, which tallies up 137 so far full clears of Naxx, and the post started off with 59 and so many more have come forward since then. Then again, not everybody's exactly going to be looking for this information, but if you wanted a list, I reckon this is about as good as it's going to get at this point in time. It also sorts clears in pre and post Burning Crusade pre-patch, because after the pre-patch, anybody could get rank 14 weapons, which are, as I'm sure you know, pretty good and certainly help out on clears a lot. So let's call it 137 guilds, 137 times 40, which is 5,480 players. Okay. How many people were subbed then overall? Somewhere between 7.5 and 8 million. We'll call it 7.75, which after we do some big maths, that comes out at 0.7%, not recurring, of the player base that we know of having defeated Kel'Thuzad and cleared the final raid tier of vanilla. Well, a popular rumour that it was only 0.1% or less of the player base that got a full clear, yeah, that's looking as though it's pretty true. And we don't have perfect numbers to work with here, but suffice to say that Blizzard brought back basically the whole raid in Wrath of the Lich King because so few people got to see it the first time around. You just don't see that happen with any other content from TBC, for example, do you? Or just, well, any other raid ever. Well, okay, apart from Onyxia, that happened in Wrath of the Lich King, and Zulaman, and ZG, and the Molten Core anniversary thing, but that doesn't really count. Look, it only ever happened properly with Naxx and Onyxia though. The troll 20-man raids were made into dungeons, and the MC thing was LFR, so yeah, it's whatever. So what made it a legendary challenge back in the day? There's a whole list of things really. There was no PTR testing from what I could tell, scuffed internet and PCs. I mean, just check out some of these top UIs from World First Kills back in the day. You know, they probably wouldn't look so bad if the video wasn't in 360p. Some people put it down to lack of motivation. Naxx was June 16th, 2006. TBC information was already floating about as early as September 1st. No, the links don't work on this page, unfortunately. I wish they did. TBC's release date itself would undergo a delay before being confirmed on the 9th of November 2006 to finally release on the 16th of January 2007. Linear raiding, of course, played a part. If you wanted a shot in Naxx, you would have had to be in the raiding scene for a good while already. The catch-up gear from ZG and AQ20 are decent, but Naxx was a real step up from the already challenging AQ40. The raid is massive, like AQ40's big, right? But you get some nice bug mount to ride around on. Also, it has 9 bosses total, including the optionals. Naxx has 15 total, no optional bosses, and this is vanilla content, so there's no extending your raid to carry on from last week's progress. That meant those bosses that beat you into the ground last week time and time again would be a consistent challenge. Well, with help from gear and the experience you've gained, but with how players were back then, and the raid being designed more so with buffs and consumables in mind, this meant it became a constant test of go raid, go farm gold, to be able to raid, see how far you can clear in 1 week, then the whole thing resets and you're back to going to farm gold to be able to raid, and it's a really rough cycle. It was extremely time intensive back then, and honestly people got sort of burned out after repeating this cycle for a while and thought, you know what, whatever, the expansion's gonna be ending soon, I'll see you in TBC, and then peacing out. It also featured bosses that would challenge even the most hardcore guilds back then, including legendary encounters such as Pipe, Frogger, and the ever-dreaded pressing your spacebar at the right time. I think there was this 4 horseman fight or something too, that doesn't really ring a bell. Oh wait, it's that encounter that players found it easiest to do with 8 tanks, wasn't it? Where one resisted taunt could result in a wipe, or finding there's a rather large frost worm, which needs a rather large amount of frost resist to be able to clear just before the last boss. The way Naxx was designed was interesting too, it being totally non-linear, but requiring 13 bosses from the 4 quarters to be defeated before you could take on Sapphiron in the Frostworm lair before advancing on to KT, with different quarters having varying levels of difficulty. Spider generally considered to be the easiest, whereas I see some differing opinions on the hardest. It's got to be Construct surely, with all those extra mini-bosses there, though, right? And back in the day, the clear times were interesting, I guess. Spider was cleared 5 days after launch, pretty good pace. The next full quarter to fall was Construct after 11 days. Plague was next, and I'm genuinely surprised Hagen the Unclean, the safety dance boss, took 14 days to clear. I mean, am I missing something here? You can say it's bad PCs, but Thaddeus took half this time, and Noth isn't exactly much of a wall. Strange. Anyways, Lotheb was a real wall taking 28 days to defeat, and the military quarter was the final one to go, with 4 horsemen being a huge challenge, taking a staggering 67 days from launch. The final 2 bosses were equally challenging in their own right, Sapphiron taking 75 days, and the Lich KT 80 days from launch to clear, all in all. Not bad. Not bad at all. Of course, in Classic, it'll be done day 1. We all know it will be. I mean, the length people go to min-max in Classic is just insane. There's actually a poll on Warcraft Logs Classic at the moment, I guess stemming from people getting tired about how hard they have to go to compete. I don't know, I'm staying out of it. Speedrunning isn't my scene, really, but yeah, nothing is off limits as far as I'm concerned. For your average guild who took a little while to clear Blackwing Lair, a bit longer for AQ40, and now are looking forwards to the final goal of Naxx, sure, I reckon it's going to be the biggest step up in difficulty so far. Even if you're rolling with world buffs and consumables, there are plenty of early bosses or just trash mechanics that can really start to hit your raid's power and mess you up if you're new to it, or just have a bit of a hazy memory on how it all goes. The question is, with our modern advantages, min-max culture, knowledge, hardware, and so on and so forth, will Naxx live up to that legacy at all the hype that's been built up around it? Or will it just be that final stepping stone that gets us one step closer to the seemingly inevitable TBC announcement? How many guilds will disappear overnight the moment KT goes down? A few, but I can't help feeling it's been over 1 year of progression and raiding so far. Just to kill one boss, one time, seems a bit excessive, if I'm honest. I think the real killer, just like back in the day, could be the consumables required to smoothly clear the raid. Even if it's easier than expected, there are a couple of bosses that tax your wallet in order for you to win, just like Viscidus does in AQ40. And Viscidus was and still is the boss with the least kills in AQ40, or the one that took most guilds the longest time to progress on. Overall though, you know what, I'm looking forward to it regardless. Tier 3 is pretty cool after all. Not just now, but Naxx level gear in general is going to be very good all the way through the leveling process in TBC, and will carry you nicely up to Prebis and even be useful in your first few raids. It really is that high on power. As for how Naxx itself plays out, well, we don't have long to wait now. As always though, thanks all so much for watching and listening in, and I'll see you all in the next one very soon. If you like what you see, do give the video a like and subscribe, as there will be plenty more to come. Thank you guys all so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.